Okay, so that was the second big trade story that happened yesterday. The really big one, both literally and figuratively, is that guy, Cleveland, Myles Garrett. He posted a trade request on social media yesterday. He is the NFL's reigning Defensive Player of the Year. He finished the season second in sacks, sixth in pass rush win rate. He's had 14 sacks in each of the last 4 seasons. That's been done exactly 0 times before in NFL history. So yesterday he released a statement saying in part, "While I've loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl." And Dan and Lewis, you guys did a game right at the end of the season with him, and you were talking about it on the air then, and you were talking about it this morning, that based upon your conversations with him, this didn't surprise you.
No, not at all. I mean, he was very clear of his disappointment with where they were and the questions that he had going forward for their organization. He had, constantly talked about, well, what's going to be the plan at the offensive line? What's going to be the plan at running back? Obviously, what was going to be the plan at quarterback? That's the crux of this situation. The trade that they used to acquire and then pay for Deshaun Watson has really blown up a playoff caliber roster, and Myles Garrett's career is wasting away in Cleveland. I mean, there's 3 guys that have had over 100 sacks in their 20s, Reggie White, Jared Allen, and Myles Garrett. He doesn't turn 30 till the end of next season. So you're talking about a Hall of Fame career that is getting wasted away. God, this is huge news to me. Guys like this don't become, and I don't know how available he is, they don't become available. Could you imagine if Aaron Donald became available in the prime of his career, or J.J. Watt became available in the prime of his career? It speaks to the disappointment, because Andrew Berry, the general manager of Cleveland, really did build a pretty darn good roster. They just missed on the quarterback.
Yeah, and it's funny to say that he's available, because according to Andrew Berry, and I'm sure according to Jimmy and Dee Haslam, he ain't available. Right. He wants to be available, right, which is kind of what makes this all the more interesting. And look, when you sat and you looked in Myles Garrett's face, when he was talking to us about this, he was calm. He was very calculated. And we asked him, look, it's out there that you said at the end of the season, you're going to want to sit down with management and the coaching staff. And Kevin Stefanski, we asked him too. And he said, look, Myles has earned that right. He's earned that right by what he has done on the football field. And Myles is someone who's very, very articulate about the history of the game, how he fits into the history of the game, how he still wants to make history on, as far as, leaving his legacy in this game, but most importantly, how he wants to win. And he wanted to know what's the plan for winning. And I'm telling you, that Deshaun Watson contract, it's not just about the ramifications of what it does to their salary cap and the fact that he's untradeable and it's a $170-something million dead cap hit if you got rid of him, and he's not going to be available this year maybe anyway. That's amazing. Just think about the mental gymnastics that makes a player like Myles Garrett do. Look at what we did here. And now we have no way out of it.
No future.
We have no way out of it. So, look, if you're Andrew Berry, of course you're going to sit back and say, this is one of the greatest pass rushers that has ever walked the face of the earth. And we have him. He don't want to play for us. And we have no way of kind of calming his fears about we don't have a plan. So what do? You better probably start taking some offers, because I have a hard time thinking that he's going to show up.
And it doesn't... After spending time with him, Lewis, I think you would agree, this doesn't feel emotional. This isn't a knee-jerk thing. This is, to Lewis's point, super smart, super calculated, very understanding of this. And I saw Shefty say, how dug is he willing to be? My guess is he's pretty willing to get pretty dug in.
He's thought through this thing.
It's 8 years, right? And I think they've made the playoffs in 2 of them, right? So, I think you could imagine a situation where a team makes the guy the highest paid defensive player in the league and gives him a lifetime contract effectively, and everybody's happy. But it sounds like this isn't that kind of situation based on what you guys are saying, based on what Myles himself is saying. So the question is, what's the way to a solution here? You mentioned Jimmy and Dee Haslam, the team owners. They're trying to get a stadium built. You want public support for your team when you're doing that. You're not trading away the face of your franchise.
Yeah, you better find a quarterback, though.
Right, exactly. But most teams, if you have a quarterback, then that's the face of your franchise. They don't have that in Cleveland.
Right.
So there are a lot of hurdles to clear. $36 million in dead money this year if they trade him. So they'd have to rework Deshaun Watson's contract again and push that issue further down the road. So it's going to be very difficult for Cleveland to do this. If he makes their lives difficult, holds out, refuses to play, it's going to be an ugly situation.
You're talking about the fans, right? And they're trying to get a stadium built. Most people, if you polled most Cleveland Browns fans, they would be like, we don't blame him.
They're on his side.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So you've really messed this up.
Yes.
I think a huge part of this whole situation and how realistic it gets is, one, what is Cleveland's vantage point on the quarterbacks coming out of this draft? They have the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. Do they really like a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders or both of them? Because then if you really like one of those quarterbacks, then you maybe are less willing to trade Myles Garrett and you want to play hardball. If you look at those 2 quarterbacks and you say, no, we don't like one of them early on, then you're calling Minnesota and going, what are your plans? Are you going to sign Sam Darnold? Because if you're going to sign Sam Darnold, how likely or how willing are you to trade away a J.J. McCarthy? And that's how you can solve the problem at quarterback if you're Cleveland.
If I'm Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, I go, click.
Yeah. All right, let me leave all this here. Here we go. Myles Garrett posted a trade request on social media yesterday. Arguably the best defensive player in the league. He is the reigning defensive player of the year. He finished this season 2nd in sacks and 6th in pass rush win rate. He has had 14 sacks in each of the last 4 seasons. That has been done in NFL history exactly 0 times before. Myles Garrett released a statement in which he said, "While I've loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl." So there are a lot of different angles to this. There's how did we get here? There's what should the Browns do? There's who should be out there trying desperately to get him. Can we just start for a moment by just allowing it to wash over us just how brutally awful the Deshaun Watson deal winds up being for Cleveland?
Sure.
When Hembo and I do these books, we put that in the top 10 worst deals, I think, in sports history. This thing is rapidly climbing the list to be number one, right? The ripple effect of that deal, which none of us quarreled with at the time. Like we were all like, "Oh my God, they got him instead of Atlanta getting him." Like we thought they were getting a great quarterback.
They gave up a lot. I mean,
they gave up a lot.
Some of that was said at the time.
But but generally speaking,
I didn't think he'd play badly.
I didn't hear people. I don't remember hearing people say, "Well, this will destroy the franchise as we know it."
I mean, look,
that's basically what's happened,
suspended, right?
Yeah. Right.
But you thought when
they were willing to live with
well.
that, and they paid him like $1 that first year, so it wouldn't cost him any money. I mean, they basically handed over the franchise to him, and it has been an abject disaster. The ripple effect of which leaves itself with your best player, one of the 5 best players in football, demanding a trade.
So you know what this makes me think of? This makes me think of like Luka Doncic right now, okay? So think about that. Think about what the Dallas Mavericks are doing, right? They're trying to minimize risk. There's something about the player that makes them think we can't trust him to wind up signing him to this supermax contract, $350 billion, whatever it is. 350 is like million.
Million, yeah.
But still, they look at it and they go, look, there's something that we just are not comfortable with. Ownership at the Browns knew what was coming with Deshaun Watson, despite what he had put on tape on the football field in Houston. And they were like, nah, we're going to not only pay you.
Over the top.
We're going to guarantee all of it.
Well, because remember.
Are you kidding? Your job is to mitigate risk.
Remember,
lessen risk every time.
No.
Right.
Right? Like he took them off his list.
Right.
And then
And they were like, how about if we guarantee all?
Yeah, exactly.
How about if we do that? And you have guys like Myles Garrett sitting there going, okay, well, you know what? He was a tough son of a gun to deal with down there in Houston. He had some great years. Maybe people felt a little sorry for Deshaun because of how he had kind of feuded with management and wanted out of there, all that stuff. But you're right. The ripple effects are not just now they don't have now they have an injured quarterback. Now they may not have the means to go ahead and replace him. Right. Now their salary cap is all screwed up, and now their number 1 player wants out. It is number 1.
It's an abject disaster. That said, now we deal with this situation.
Yes.
Myles Garrett, you sat with him. The 2 of you guys. You did the game right at the end of the season. So this did not come as a surprise to you.
No, I mean, Myles is He takes you back with how calculated he is, how intelligent he is, how well-spoken he is, how kind of big picture viewpoint that he has. I mean, for a guy that is so physically imposing, you sit there and go, you're one of the most fascinating people that we get the chance to talk to. He's non-emotional. And so you have to understand that this is not something that is a knee-jerk reaction. It's not emotional to what just has happened over the last 2, 3, 4 months in Cleveland. This is a big picture vantage point. I don't think it has a ton to do with money. This has a lot to do with legacy. We're talking about one of the great pass rushers of all time. Lewis, I remember you asked him a question, and he was talking about guys that were pass rushers 50, 60 years ago.
When you were a kid.
Yeah.
But
his vantage point, he was talking about guys that he wants to be in the name. He's not going to be in Cleveland because his career is getting wasted in many ways.
And you felt that coming out of him. Green.
Yeah.
Like you felt him like, look, I need answers. I need answers about how we are going to turn this thing to where it's not like he knows he's going to get paid no matter what.
It's not a play for money.
He knows he's going to get paid. Someone's going to give him money. He really does want to win, and he plays that way. And you know what? You could tell he cares about his teammates. He talked about a lot of the young players on the defensive line who he mentors right now. He gave us names of guys who he thought were going to be good players down the road.
Yeah.
And you watch how he played out there. I mean, he played in that game, which was a meaningless game for the Browns when we're watching them go against the Ravens. And they're just after him the whole game, and he never stops.
He's a superstar.
It was just, he means what he's saying. Right?
He's one of those guys that when you get him in your building, if you have a pulse at quarterback, you have Super Bowl aspirations.
Right. That's the point.
That great.
So unlike the Cooper Kupp conversation where we're like, well, where does he fit? There's no team.
Everyone will call.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what should we expect to happen here?
Well, the question is, what do the Browns want to do? And how, if they're saying they don't want to trade him, how far are they willing to go? How firm are they willing to stand on that? Ownership is involved here because they're trying to get a stadium built out there, right? And you need a good feeling in the community about your team when you're trying to get a stadium.
Good luck with that.
Exactly. So so you're trading away maybe if you look around the stadium during games, maybe his is the jersey that most people have on.
Right.
Now he's gone. So that's a tough sell for ownership. So does someone make them an offer they can't refuse? Look, start a free agency March 12th, and then the draft at the end of April. Those are the two kind of pressure points where deals can get done,
right.
Because you're trading for picks that you know what they are. If you do it after the draft, you're trading for future picks. You don't know how good they're going to be. You're giving somebody Myles Garrett, might not be as good a pick, right? So if we get through the draft and nothing's happened, then we're into training camp holdout territory, and how far does he want to push it? I think it's got a chance to get ugly.
The starting point of all this is, what does Cleveland believe about these quarterbacks in this draft? Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. They have the second pick. If they really like one, if not both of them, then I think they can be a little bit more patient. If they sit there and go, neither of them we believe in as regards to the second pick, then immediately you call the Minnesota Vikings and you figure out what is their vantage point on Sam Darnold. If the Vikings are going to go sign Sam Darnold, or that's something that they want to do, then you figure out, can you pull J.J. McCarthy away from them, and is Myles a part of that? The other team that I think you have to call, the Cleveland Browns. The Washington Commanders have to call because of their window, because Jaden, because of Dan Quinn's style. They have to call and see how likely it is.
The interesting part about this is Andrew Berry may be sitting somewhere right now watching Get Up going, all this doesn't mean anything because I already told y'all I'm not trading him. Which, to your point, means we're going to be, I think this is far from over. This is something that's going to go for a while. And Myles wouldn't have put pen to paper and put that out there like that if he wasn't locked in. I don't think he's standing on shaky ground.
No, I'm 100% with you guys. This is not the act of someone trying to get a bigger contract.
No, agreed.
This is a person who is going to get whatever contract he wants. It goes beyond that, which I respect. Be fascinating to watch how this thing goes. As we continue.
How's it going, everybody? Villa Sports Network here. Just want to thank you guys for your support on the channel. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Also want to kind of remind you to don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment on the video if you like as well. But regardless of the fact, thank you again for your support, and hope to see you on the next video.